Hi everyone, it's Wale here from She Talks. Look, I'm going live tonight with Rose Davidson, and now some of you may know Rose, and Rose is a survival of incest, which is something that you may not know about her, but you will know Rose from her podcast, Talking with the Experts. Now, I will be looking this way. I do have my mobile phone here for Instagram. However, here, and if I'm not looking at the camera, I'll just acknowledge that now. I'm still working out where to look on this, because even though I'm looking at my camera, I swear it doesn't look like I'm looking straight ahead. So we're going live on She Talks Facebook page, on the private group Empowered Speaker, so welcome, and also on YouTube live, and then over here on my phone we're live on She Talks Instagram page. So welcome everyone. Soon Rose will be jumping in with us, and I just wanted to jump on first and explain a little bit about Rose. So Rose invited me to be on her podcast, which was absolutely fantastic. I love being invited to speak on podcasts and share my wisdom with wider groups of people. It means everything to me to get this information out there. And since then, I can see Rose coming into the studio now. Since then, I've invited Rose to come and have a conversation with me. So these conversations, let me just, Rose. Hey, Rose, welcome.
Hey, Fer, how are you?
Good. Now, I can only see you're getting a Van Gogh, getting your ear cut off. Just a little bit. You look fantastic. There you go.
How's that?
Very good.
I was trying to hide the cat balls behind me.
Oh, I get that. Yeah. It's a bit like that sometimes. I was just introducing you, and I haven't said a whole lot, and I've just told people that they would know you from your podcast. However, they wouldn't have guessed the conversation that we're having tonight. And just for the listeners, just for those of you who might be new here as you're joining, and those of you coming back, hello, Javan. Hi, darling. I've just got my camera over here as well, Rose. I've got Instagram over here, but through StreamYard, YouTube, She Talks page, and my private groups. So, and then
we're everywhere.
We are, and I'll share it with you after. So what was I saying? I actually lost my train of thought, which is really unusual. Okay, we were hiding cat bowls, and then I got sidetracked. But nonetheless, it doesn't matter. I know. Oh yes, the foundation of these conversations is really, whether it's spoken or not, it's about losses and lessons, because we've all got a story, and we can all learn from each other's stories. And as you know, I'm all about self-expression and sharing stories, and women really speaking out loud and sharing these stories. So I'm really honoured to have you here speaking about a topic that's really taboo, if you think about it.
It still is in this
Absolutely.
day and age. And it shouldn't be.
And it shouldn't be. And just to sidebar that a little bit, is that the other day I was asked by someone who knows me, and the way the conversation was going and the questions I was being asked, they leant over and said in my ear, "Please do not say that you've been a victim of rape or sexual abuse." And I looked at them and I said, well, then I'll need to excuse myself, because I will tell everyone, and especially males.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, this was just, this is someone who hasn't dealt with their sexual abuse from childhood. So I get that. And really, I should have stayed and she should have gone. However, I get it. But I came back and I did say, just so you know, next time I will be saying it, because it needs to be out in the light and not kept in the dark. And I refuse to never mention it again. And however, that person did come up to me and follow up the conversation, and they kind of sussed. And then I told them, and they were wrapped that I could speak so honestly about it. And these are conversations that need to be out in the open. Yes, absolutely. So losses and lessons. And the reason that we're going to do lessons as well is because it's really important to take the gems out of these stories, or else what are they for?
Absolutely. I agree. I mean, if you're going to play victim all your life, there's no point. There's got to be lessons out of everything that's happened. Life happens for you. It doesn't happen to you. And there are reasons why these things have happened. And for me, it's made me a very strong person, very strong personality, and a fighter. I'm so resilient that, nothing, if I get knocked down, I don't stay down for long.
Yeah, look, it's the same for me too. What it's given me, I wouldn't give back. If I had to give it back, I'd be like, well, I'll keep that experience then, because I'm okay with that experience now. Oh, hell no. Put me back into the moment and I might make a different decision. Sure,
Yeah.
of course. Yeah. So there's a thing, right? And I'm pretty sure, oh, hi, Bula. Hi, welcome. And welcome to the people who are in anonymous mode. Thanks for being here. Look, I certainly have a history of child sexual abuse and gang rape. And so I've been raped 7 times by different people, and that includes the gang rape. However, there is something that I am aware of only through reading. And I'm so glad you're here today. But my understanding is that, I mean, there's always associated psychological effects and symptoms that we get through trauma. However, through my reading and just guessing, incest would have another level. And that's what psychologists say, that there's more, uh, more unique challenges that you'd experience. Because here's the thing that I know. Life has challenges. We all have challenges. There's a lot of sort of generic challenges, and there's really unique ones to us. But generally speaking, if you haven't had this sort of trauma, it's sort of almost a blanket statement, but not, then you won't have the kind of unique experiences that someone who's been raped as a child or sexually abused as a child. And I should have put a trigger warning at the beginning, so excuse me if the R word bothers you, and I will say sexual assault or abuse from now on. But there's unique challenges that come with that are unique to that trauma. And then I've read that there's other ones through incest. So, and I can imagine.
Most certainly there are.
Right.
And not to make light of people who've been sexually abused as children. I'm not making light of that at all. But I must say that when it's happening in your family, when your father is absolutely the person who is abusing you sexually, they're the person that you're supposed to trust. Your mother, my mother knew from the time I was about 13 and did nothing about it. She was just carried on with her own life and had her own affairs with other men and did what she did. I was not cared for at all. So being in an incestuous relationship, there are other psychological challenges that come with that, because I always had to be an A student, which I never was. I always had to come first in sporting activities, which I only ever did once. That was in a running race. But I used to ice skate, figure skate, and I came second in the championships. And my father said to me, you can get this 2-level organ if you get first. I came second, and I did my very best, but I didn't even get an ice cream on the way home. All I got was a mouthful of abuse for not being good enough. And so I grew up with this thing of not feeling not being good enough. I didn't have any friends because I'm pretty sure the neighborhood knew what was going on. No one liked my father anyway, so because he was always an angry man. And and on top of the incest, there was the psychological abuse, the emotional abuse, the physical abuse. There was quite often times I used to go to school with black eyes and bruises from head to toe because, you know, something that I did that he didn't like. So
and
there's
and
all
that
those
was
other levels
right.
of trauma that you go
Mm.
through as a child of incest that ones of sexual assault, I don't think have that same level. But I'm not trying to demean
So
that at all.
I can speak to that, and that is, look, tick the box to everything you just said. I experienced that as well. But here's what really profoundly came to my mind is, for you, it's relentless, it's all encompassing, and there's no getting away from it because it's not someone who visits or someone that you're
No.
sent to. It's the person who you're with it 24/7. And the level of psychological abuse would be next level, I reckon,
Hmm.
because it is a parent. And so you've already formed your bonds of love with that person.
Hmm.
And they're impossible to break, and that's what I know that people who've been sexually abused by parents, I know that because there's a book that I've got about sexual abuse, which I got during my time of healing. And I remember reading about a mother sexually abusing her child, and the woman saying can't help but still love her mother
Yeah,
because that
I'm the
bond was
same.
formed, right?
I hate him, but I hate what he's done, but he's my father, and God rest his soul, he's passed on now, but, you know, I hate him for what he's done, and I hate how because I left home at 14, I brought myself up. So for me to learn to be an adult, I had to do that by watching other people. I didn't have any role models, you know, so I taught myself how to put makeup on. I taught myself how to dress. I taught myself how to behave in public. And it was a really difficult journey for a girl of 14. You're just going through puberty, and you're trying to live a life of an adult, you know, at such an early age, and you're still a baby.
Yeah, because that's the other thing. It makes you grow up. You have to be an adult because the child's not safe.
No,
You have
and
to be an
I
adult.
can't find that inner child anymore. That inner child in me is I can't find her. As much
Right.
as I try, I can't relate to her. She doesn't, um she's just another thing, you know. I
Let
think if I
me,
tried to find her, that I think that I would go back to that trauma.
you're right. Because I have thought about this. I've thought about people, and clearly you're one of those people who pretty much had it from the beginning, right? And I don't know your whole story yet, and I think about people who've had this kind of abuse since the beginning. And I'm still a believer, and clearly you're proof of that, that you can survive that you can again be a pretty whole human in the world and have a successful life and love again and have relationships. I believe that. However, I want to ask you, because you just said that you haven't connected with that little girl again, because that's risky. And I get
Mm.
that. Do you think you ever could, or do you think this is, given the nature of your experience, it's not possible? Where do you lie with
I
that?
don't know. I didn't really have a childhood, so I don't think that, you know, that part of my life was stolen from me. So I don't know what it's like to be a child. I was always the, you know, the grown up one amongst all my friends, and you know, far older than my years. So I don't know what it's like to be a child.
I'm just going to say, is that who I think it is? Rahima, hello, welcome. Look, ladies and gentlemen, there is a bit of a trigger warning. I'm going to ask Rose, when did it first start? And when I say that, you can answer that.
No, I'm happy to tell my
Okay,
story.
all right.
I'm not
Yeah,
ashamed of my story because
no,
it's
no,
at all. I'm not. I used
but
to be ashamed of it, but I am no longer ashamed of it. So,
right. But I'm not necessarily talking about the sexual abuse, but yes, when did that start? However, when did,
oh, the grooming started when I was about 6.
thank you. And then when did you get a sense of the wrongness of it, or that something
When I was
was,
about
you tell
10.
me. Yeah, right.
Yeah, the sexual touching, kissing started when I was about 9,
Mm-hmm.
and then by the time I was about 10 or 11, I started to feel really uncomfortable and knew that it wasn't quite the right thing to do, but
Mm.
I was still forced to do that. I lost my virginity to him when I was 12.
12.
Mm.
Wow. And what changed? What did you lose? What changed for you? What happened when
I
that happened?
lost myself. I thought that love was sex, so
Right.
if you go out with a boy, and they want sex, that means they love you. And so I'd fall madly in love with everybody. It took me a lot of years to work out that that wasn't the case.
Yeah.
Um, I've done a lot of self-healing. Psychologists, rape counselors, rape crisis counselors, psychiatrists did nothing for me. Uh, Most of them were just out of university. They had not been through any type of trauma of their own. They were just treating me like a textbook case, and I couldn't deal with them.
Same, same. There really is a great divide. If you haven't had an experience, there's things that they're going to say to you that just, nah, that doesn't apply here. You don't get it. You
No, you
won't get
don't. And they
it. You
didn't get
can't
it. They
get it.
didn't get my trauma. They didn't get my pain.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Did you have suicidal thoughts?
Yeah, I did. A lot of times I used to cut myself a lot when I was about 15 and 16. Still got
Right.
scars where I
Wow.
used to
Yeah.
engrave myself. I used to engrave myself with a pin, or I'd
Yeah.
get wet a match and burn
Right.
initials and things into my arms. I've still got a scar where I tried to burn off a tattoo that I'd given myself. So I
Wow.
got a wet match and just rubbed it and rubbed it and rubbed it until the tattoo was gone.
Yeah.
So there's still a scar there. And in my 40s, I actually tried to seriously commit suicide. I had 3 kids. I was married for the second time. I had 3 bouts of, postnatal depression, plus the other 3 mental illnesses that I'd inherited from being abused as a child, which I didn't know that I had. Enough was enough. So one night I took a bottle of whiskey and a bottle of sleeping pills, went down to the beach and sculled the whiskey and downed the pills. And at the last minute, just before I went to sleep, I rang my husband and said, "Can you come and rescue me?"
Wow. And
Mm.
I wanted to say, what did he say? But that just seems like a really too simple question. But
He
what did?
was, he didn't realize I was in so much pain.
Yeah,
He
no,
just, he didn't understand my depression. I didn't understand it because I've got bipolar. I've
right,
got complex PTSD, and I've got emotional dysfunction disorder.
right.
Having the bipolar, I'd be up here one day and the next day, down here, and I could never
Mm.
understand my anger. And I'd always been an angry child,
Which
and
would have
that's
been
the reason.
impacted by the other,
Yeah,
yeah, the
yeah, it
post.
was, but nobody picked it up until I went to this psychiatrist once, and told him my story, and he just said, "You've got this, this, and this." Straight off, off the bat, he said, "Because of your childhood trauma, you will have these for the rest of your life. And here are some, medications for you to take to keep your bipolar in check at least, and you just need to learn to live with the rest of it," which I have.
Yeah,
But I still have my moments of depression, but I don't, thank God, have suicidal thoughts anymore.
yeah, yeah. So with your husband, he had no idea. Was that because you were keeping it all together on the surface?
Well, he was from the old school. If you're depressed, you just get over it. I mean, he and I had
Right.
a very, very tumultuous early marriage. There was a lot of physical violence between us. We're still together. We
Mhm.
worked it out, and he decided if I got angry, he'd go and hide.
Great. Just curious,
So if
man
so
cave.
so now we've come to the conclusion, if we're angry with each other, then we'll just go into separate rooms, and then we'll come together and we'll discuss it.
You
But
got to
there are no
find,
more physical altercations, and we haven't
yeah.
had one for about 20 years. So people think that I'm mad, but we
No,
love each other, and we
I
knew
get it.
because his childhood was quite traumatic as well. So as 2 people with trauma trying to live with each other and trying to work through them.
And all the other normal
Your
human emotions that get triggered, and the frustration that you feel when you're not on the same page with that person, all of those relational things that everyone gets, that feeling where they just feel like, God, I wish I could just smash my head against the wall, or can you
Yeah.
just shut the F up? Like, everyone feels that. But when you have all of this other stuff impacting it, yeah.
Yeah, it's been a really tough life, but in the last couple of years, I've really come into my own self. I've learnt to understand myself a lot more, and I've opened myself up to the universe and manifestation, because I think if I feel gratitude for just the smallest things, like the good things happen.
Yeah.
I always used to think, that my life wasn't worth having good things happen to me because it was my fault, but
Yeah.
it wasn't
Which
my fault, and
is what we think when we're children. We absolutely think it's our fault.
Hmm.
I
Yeah, I
thought
agree.
I thought I'm too sweet, generous, kind, and loving, and that's why these things are happening to me. I'm just too nice to people. And then I
And I'm
tried to,
still too nice, kind, and generous, and things still happen to me.
well, I shut that down, and that was the worst feeling for you. I mean, just, we're not designed to be shut down. We're designed to feel it. And, we're meant to do that. But I remember shutting it down and not feeling anything, and it was awful. And I thought, okay, I need to learn to have an open heart, but know that that person doesn't know my heart's wide open, and I don't need to, like, we're sort of taught to smile at someone and don't make them feel bad, and so I would smile at an older guy who was being sweet to me, and I'd be thinking, I don't know what your intention is, but I'd smile and be polite. Then I realized I didn't have to be polite and smile, and I also didn't have to close my heart.
No,
And
that's right.
that was a real practice for me. And a few things happened since then. Back then, a few things happened while practicing that, but I wasn't willing to throw baby out with the bathwater, so to speak. Meaning, I knew that I was in practice. I was training this new way of being and what energy I was putting out there. What worked for me, what was really powerful for me was, I didn't come up with it. Someone said to me, you're a goddess and accept nothing less. And I said, no, I don't relate to the word goddess. And they said, well, maybe that's true, and maybe it's not. Maybe you're not relating to it because you're trauma, but otherwise, queen, whatever you want to call it. But you deserve nothing less than a miraculous guy. And I thought, oh, I like that. I took that on. And then in my mind, I thought, okay, they've got to open the door, they've got to be polite, and they've got to offer me a drink, right? Because they're the gentleman. And that's not a normal code that I live by. But I needed to put that in because then I wouldn't accept anything below that. And then I was finding men who were being friends and not being forward and not trying to like fill me up or be promiscuous, who are opening the door, calling me a goddess, and buying me like, oh, I'll pay for the coffee, and then happy to just be friends. I was thinking, this is incredible. This is remarkable. A remarkable difference to all the bullshit that I was being faced with before that.
I worked out too that I had to learn to trust. It took me a long time to learn how to trust anybody. Doesn't mean it's
yourself. Trust yourself.
trusting yourself with your own feelings as well.
Yeah.
I say, but incest, and I'm going to use the word incest, and I'm sorry that if it triggers people.
No, you should
but
use it.
But it needs to be talked about. It's been swept under the carpet for far too long. It used to be, back in, I'm 62 years old. Back in my day, it was not talked about at all. And
I wanted to talk about that actually. You went to school with black eyes, and what happened? Because there's different protocols back then. So what would happen if
nothing happened?
they kind of acted like it wasn't there?
Pretty much.
Yeah, that sounds about right. For back then.
I mean, they'd say, oh, what happened? I'd say, oh, Dad hit me, but nothing was ever done. It's just.
Right.
Punishments for me, if were things like if I didn't know something at school, a maths problem, because my father was very smart. Um, it'd be standing beside his kitchen chair for 8 hours at the very least, learning, trying to learn this problem. And if I didn't, and I knew I finally got the answer, but I was too frightened to say it because I thought, well, I'll just get another smash in the head and I'll
Yeah.
end up, on the other end of the room. So I just didn't say anything. And so, ended up with a beating because, I was called stupid and, punished. And the worst punishment that he used to deal out was total silence. He wouldn't speak to us for days if he was really angry. And that is the worst punishment, that
That is
other
the
than the
worst
beatings,
to
it was
children.
the the
Mhm.
psychological punishment that he used to
Yeah,
give.
yeah, totally. That is the worst because you just completely shut out.
Mm.
So, what do you want to talk about? What do you want to tell us about? Because, you know, you're the one with the experience, not us. So, tell us about it. Whatever you want to share with us that you think is important for us to know.
I think it's if someone, whether it's a family member or a non-family member who is interfering with you sexually, go and tell someone. If your mother doesn't believe you, then go and tell an auntie, or you go tell your grandmother, go and tell your friend's mother, go and tell the police. The police are there to now in these days are trained to listen and believe children when they are coming forward with stories of abuse.
Yeah,
Please, please, please go and tell somebody. And if a child says that they're being sexually abused, don't dismiss it. Um, you know, they don't know what sex is. They don't know, um, what's happening to their body. I mean, I enjoyed it in the beginning because I didn't know what was happening to my body. I didn't know about, orgasm or sexual feelings or anything. I just knew that it felt nice, and I didn't want it to stop. I, Again, that brought up years later feelings of guilt, but
it was.
I shouldn't have felt guilty because I didn't know what was happening to my body. So if a child comes to you and says, someone's touching me and I'm having these feelings, believe them because they don't know what's happening to them, and get
Mm,
them some counselling and get the perpetrator jailed, punished. And the punishment laws for incest and child sexual abuse are far too lenient. There should
oh,
be mandatory sentencing.
yeah. Heck yeah. Because same as death, because it's a death to us
It
and
is.
it lasts a lifetime. And even if you overcome it and heal from it and become a better person from it, which is what I say, I'm a better person because of it. But at the same time, there's parts of my life that are still triggered, and there's times when I'm wary, and those experiences and symptoms that you have that just don't seem to go away.
I can't watch television where a child's being abused. I still can't. It just makes me feel
Mm.
like I used to feel, and I think I know it's only acting, but I still can't watch it.
No, I don't care if it's acting or not. I know it's happening somewhere in the world, is what I say.
Yeah.
When it comes to the body, though, it's the body is full of nerve endings and it's highly sensitive, and touch is pleasurable, right?
Yeah.
And we know that little boys if they wake up, doesn't matter how young they are, even like they've even had toddlers who play with themselves, right? Because it's pleasurable. That's quite
Right.
normal. But to discover that you've been taken advantage of, that you've been betrayed, that you haven't been supported, yeah, all of that's the psychological
Yeah. Well, as I said, my
impact,
mother knew. My mother knew from time I was about 13, I think 12 or
right?
13. We actually went to the police. My father had a bad industrial accident. He used to work at the Wallerawang power station. He was a welder.
Right.
and he fell about 40 feet, and he nearly died. And Mum said, "Well, let's go to the police and make a statement about it." And I thought, well, it was a bit odd because he's on his deathbed. But anyways, my father got well. Mother made me go back and recant my statement.
Really?
Yeah.
What was she
I had
worried
no
about?
support from my mother whatsoever.
What was she worried about?
She was worried about her own self, that she had nowhere to go.
Okay. But had he have died, it would have been a different story.
Well, she still had nowhere to go. She had no money.
Right.
What was she going to do? You know, it
Right.
would have been the same thing if he had died. So why didn't she just leave him? But, she wouldn't. My mother was very selfish. It's a harsh thing to say about your own mother, but she's just a selfish person.
No. Yeah. Is she narcissistic? Did she have
Yes.
bipolar? She's narcissistic. Okay.
She's at the moment, she's got Alzheimer's, and good luck with her with that. But
Right.
I think
Mm.
I'm very nasty towards my mother. But we didn't speak for over 20 years, and then she got the Alzheimer's, and I came down to look after her because I felt it was my obligation to do so,
Right.
because I'm the eldest in the family.
I don't
But
know.
I still have this anger towards her.
Right. When we don't know what we don't know, when you're a child, when you don't know it's wrong, and you don't know what parents' roles are or what your role is, and then you learn it. That's one impact. But also there is a sort of sense of what kind of parents you want, not based on, it kind of is based on seeing other people interact with their family. You kind of get a sense of what a family's supposed to be, and a
Mm.
sense of what parents are supposed to be. And for example, for me, it was, you'd lay down your life for your child, right? You just do anything. You wouldn't just wonder if it was really happening and not take action, right? A parent, in my mind, should do everything within their power for their
Well,
children.
I used to fight for my kids. I mean, if they got into any kind of scrap at all, my God, I'd be like a tigress. There'd be no stopping me. I would
Well, I
defend them
get
to
that.
the ends of the earth, because
I
I
get.
didn't have that support as a child, and my
Mm,
kids were so supported, very spoilt. They don't speak to me now because of other issues, but except for my son. My son speaks to me because he loves me. But yeah, my girls, we're not that very
what
close. And my youngest won't have anything to do with me at all.
was it too much for them? Is that it?
I think I love them too much. Yeah,
That's what I mean. Yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
I get that. Yeah, and you were protective. So when it comes to you, at what point did you start those two things? One, realizing this isn't the kind of parents that I long for, that I want.
When I
And
left home at 14,
okay, right. And then this is wrong. You've
yeah.
wronged me. When that moment when you go, shit, I enjoyed that, but that was a wrong thing for him to do. What was that moment like? Because these are things that people don't
But I
talk
think
about.
it's when he
They
used
make
to embarrass
people,
me. It was when he
yeah,
used to embarrass me, and I used to have friends around. He used to make me sit on his knee in front of
right.
them.
At what age?
Him.
Right.
And he'd hold me, and very possessively,
Mm,
and used to embarrass me no end. And I'd have to hold his hand going down the street, you know uh, and it was just, I knew it just felt icky, but I had to do it, otherwise I'd be punished. So it's better to put up with the embarrassment than put up with the punishment, because I hated being
mm,
hit.
yeah, right.
I
So
mean, he
that
caught me talking to a boy one day, and I got home from school and my bedding was gone. I had no bedding on, and we were living in a caravan. I had no bedding, and I searched everywhere for it. I couldn't find it. And I was made to kneel beside my bed all night until I could apologise for talking to this boy. And it
really,
was like I had school the next day, and I ended up just kneeling beside my bed and falling asleep. without apologising, because I wasn't going to apologise. So that's the kind of punishments I used to have to put up with.
Yeah, and you don't know that you can just walk out the door or not come back. You don't know that.
Oh, I
And
did that one day. That's it. I just didn't
you
come
did?
home.
What age were you? What
14. I
14?
was
That was
14.
14. So what happened? Tell us about 14. What happened at 14? That
Well, I don't know. I was just I had a boyfriend. He was a lot older than I was. I thought I was madly in love with him. We were out having a drink after school, not I think a milkshake or something. And Dad was because I was late. Dad was driving around the small town, up and down, up and down. I thought, well, if I go home, I'm just going to get a beating. I don't want a beating, so I just didn't go home. Trouble is, the fellow that I ran away with, he was worse for me than my own father was. He he so psychologically damaged me that, I was afraid of my own shadow.
right.
To be honest, I was afraid of the dark until I was in my 40s,
Yeah.
from the trauma that he inflicted on me. Yeah. So
Yeah, I understand. I had that too. From Yeah, it's
I went from
incredible.
the fat to the fire, basically.
Well, we do. We do. We go into abusive relationships and put up with so much more than, I mean, any sign, someone else would just go, "Hey, this is wrong," and they're out of there.
We
You know,
don't know, though. You don't know what you don't know. And, because you don't know how to have healthy relationships with people because you never grew up in a healthy
but
environment.
that's the thing about incest is I imagine that part of it would make it harder for someone like you because of, I mean, I have a great foundation in my life, and I'm so blessed to have at least had that because that was my driving
I
light.
didn't have anything. I didn't have
That's what
any
I mean.
role
Yeah,
models at all.
yeah, yeah. Well, I had a really healthy upbringing, and then the abuse came in around the age of 10,
Mm.
and it was my dad's best friend. Um, and because the parents weren't saying anything, and it started happening around barbecues, like the long table. They were Greek. They had a long table and there were lots of people. And he started grabbing my bum when I go past. And then when he'd hug me, he'd grab my boob. And I'd look around and I thought, no one's looking at me, no one cares. Why aren't they saying something? And I didn't realize that they didn't say anything, but I'd assumed that they don't care. He's allowed to do
Mm.
this. And I thought it was the strangest thing, but I never spoke up because I thought, well, they're not making something of it. I'll just keep away from him. It's so strange, but we're children and we seriously don't have the ability to rationalize those. We've never been in those situations before. But however, I imagine that that's what you know. That's
Mm.
all you know. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
didn't know anything else. I just knew that if a man loved you, you had sex with them. That's
Right.
all I knew.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
I could have ended up on the streets. I could have ended up a prostitute. I could have ended up in drugs. I
yeah.
decided that I was going to be stronger than that, and fight my way through. And I'm glad that I did because I've got 3 lovely children.
Wow.
I had one stupid ex-husband and a wonderful current husband, who is honestly the love of my life, even though we, don't see eye to eye on all occasions, but I don't think we're
Not
meant
meant
to
to.
anyway.
Not meant to.
But,
Um,
he does everything for me, you
yeah.
know, I only have to ask he would walk on fire for me, so
There you go. Tom Bilyeu from Impact Theory says, oh, I'm trying to remember how to say it now. If you're both in a partnership, if you both alike, then one of you is redundant because you're meant to disagree to grow. The friction is there for a reason. Your
mm,
stuff is meant to come up. You're meant to get pissed off so that you can go, oh, let me transform that.
mm.
And I think your relationship's remarkable. You've got two people with trauma coming together, butting heads, I'm going to call it. And then you solved the problem. You found strategies. And now
Mm,
you're a couple who completely support each other. And it doesn't mean everything's perfect because it's not meant to be.
no,
Yeah, I
no.
love that. Yeah,
Yeah, we just yeah, two peas in a pod now. I think
yeah,
inseparable. I mean,
yeah.
it's just
Well, you've been through the fire.
mm.
You you've
I've
you've turned.
been baptism of fire, definitely
Yeah,
have been, yes. And I come at the other side, and I'm no longer a victim. I'm the victor. I'm the queen of my own destiny, and
you are.
you know, and anyone who tries to take my crown away from me is in for a fight.
Right. That's right. It's the same for me. Sometimes I'm like, wow, you could be like, if I was in a war and I had to defend myself, I could really be vicious. I could stand up and fight, what is it, to the death, or fight
Yeah,
tooth and nail, or I really could. And it's like, wow, for this, knowing myself as this soft, sweet, sort of a little bit shy until you knew me girl who's very cute and loving, to be this real rah, is like wild.
there was
It's
people in my family say, don't ever get Rosie pissed off because you don't want to see pissed off Rosie. And and if
right.
there's some if I'm right in a situation, which we had a recent one the last couple of days, I knew I was right. Don't I will go to the nth degree to prove that what I am saying is the truth and what the other person is saying is not the truth. And I will do whatever it is. So, yeah, they just say, don't mess with Rose when she's pissed off.
But I think it's a great quality. I met, there's a friend of mine, Emma, new friend. I've known her for a while, but new friend. And she was saying something similar, and I won't do it justice with her words, but similar to what I was just saying. And I was really thinking about that. And I was thinking, but that's how it is. When you listen to Jordan Peterson speak, and he talks about, know that devil side of you, that side of you that could be a killer or a thief or a whatever. Like you talked about, you could have been a druggie or a prostitute, and same, right? But we need to acknowledge that we have all of that potential within us. We have the potential to go to war and be a fighter. We really
Mm,
do. But not everyone will get to experience that part of themselves or that side of themselves, except for maybe a little bit in in an argument, when they're arguing and they get really
mm,
fired up and frustrated, and then you can feel it surge up. But most people don't get that part of their personality and get to put it into play. So you have a business, I have a business, and that, what you might call masculine side, but I don't. I mean, it's what someone might call a masculine side, that warrior side. We get to put her into play, and it's really
really.
powerful, right?
Mm.
It's
Yeah,
that, got to get it done, got to do it now. No, you're not taking my crown. Yeah, yeah.
People are quite surprised that, knowing my story, that I've turned out to be the kind-hearted person. They recognise, that not normal people, I shouldn't say that, other type people would have, turned to be really nasty, bitter people. But I
Some
turned
do.
out to be quite open, you know, open-hearted and heart-centered, and would give the shirt off my back to anybody who needed it you
Yeah.
know um
So it was a choice for me. I'm going to ask you, was that a choice for you to be open?
I've
And
always been like it.
but that, okay, all right. But
I've always been like it. I've never been selfish with my toys. I was never
right.
selfish with I was always giving to other people.
But that could be
um
risky. Was that ever risky for you? You're open,
yeah,
giving.
I've been taken advantage of several
Right.
times.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
people have
Easily
taken
when you're
yeah,
younger,
I've been yeah, people have
it's
taken advantage of my good
not
nature.
so much now, but yeah, yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
I do think it's a choice, because it is risky to be open and loving. I mean, any human being would say it's risky to love. It's risky to have an open heart. It's risky to be generous.
but you're
I,
dead if you don't take risks, Irene.
bloody hell, that is so true. And do you find that you take a lot of risks?
Yes, I often do stuff without thinking. If I get an idea, I just act on it,
Same.
um, and the consequences will work themselves out in the end.
Same. Yep. Yep. It's just let's go. Let's get this done. Yeah. There's
That's
a real
part of my
fire.
bipolar.
Oh, right. Is it? Okay. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. But yeah, I will just go and do, like, I will climb a mountain and worry about, the pain and aches and things later.
Yeah. Yeah.
My goal is just to get to the top of the mountain. I don't care how I get there, but
Same.
then I'll think about the consequences afterwards.
I'll work out. I'll just begin. I'll work it out on the way, and I won't think about same thing, the pain. Like I
Yes,
actually did a
yeah.
hike, and I said to my friends, "I'm not fit. I might look it, but I'm not fit, and I've never hiked." And they said, "Oh, you'll be fine. It's really easy." This is in India in the Himalayas, and they are totally seasoned hikers. I'm not. It nearly killed me. But long story short is I thought back and I thought I had no consideration of how my body would be the next 3 days after such a big hike. I'm like, I'm so glad my brain doesn't do that. I'm just
I was
like,
in
yep, I want that outcome. Let's go for it.
I did in Adelaide. I built remodeled our backyard. It was a rental, but every time I have a rental, I have to remodel the backyard and put a
Make it
garden and stuff in. And this one day it was about 38 degrees, and I shoveled 3/4 of a ton of white marble chips in about 3 hours just by
right.
myself.
Yeah.
So, I paid for it for the next, week. But,
I want to get it done and I want
I
it
want to
to
get it done. I wanted to get done before my husband came home from work. So, yeah.
yeah. Yeah, nice, nice.
So he didn't have to. So that's the types of things
Mm.
that I do, because I think, there's something to do. I have to do it, and, bugger the consequences. I'll work it out at the end.
But do you think that comes out of your experience growing up? More so
Yes, I do believe so.
bipolar? Because
Yeah.
I know mine is. It's just made me go, there's worse things in life. It's just made me go, I just trust in myself and I know I've got what it takes.
There are people worse off than me. I mean, my story to me is ugly, and people take pity on me when they hear the story, but it's my story. It's I'm not ashamed of it. I used to be ashamed of it. I'm not any longer, because there is no shame in what happened to me.
No,
There's no shame in the things that I did either, between that time when I was, being raped by my father to, oh, there's that R word, sorry.
that's okay. I think
Uh,
everyone's used to us by now.
yeah, being raped by my father to, getting married for the second time, and living in a loving relationship, and there's a lot of water under the bridge, and really anyone who thinks worse, thinks the worst of me or thinks less of me, that's their small mind.
Yeah, and it is definitely something that we worry about when we first start talking about our story. Certainly when
Mm,
you share it with people you're really close to, and especially a partner, it can feel like they're going to think I'm broken, or they're going to think there's something wrong with me for doing that or being there or not walking away or not speaking up. And
mm,
it's like there's a whole psychology about this. And you've really got to understand the psychology of the brain to really get it, to really
yeah,
understand it.
absolutely.
Yeah, and it can take years before we click. This isn't right.
Well,
This
I'm
I
62, as I said before, and I'm still healing.
yeah,
And
yeah.
from the ages, from almost birth. I mean, I remember my first beating at 18 months old. So,
Wow. You
so
remember being beaten at 18 months old.
yes, for sucking my thumb.
Okay.
So
Okay.
my trauma through my life has been, all of my life until I left my father. My father, until the day he died, refused to acknowledge that he did anything wrong. He just thought he was doing a father thing. So it makes me think that maybe he was abused as a
Me too.
child, or
Yeah, right.
his sister had been abused as a child, and he just thought it was a normal behavior.
Yeah.
The other
Yeah.
behaviours that he had, though, I think because he lived through the Second World War as a boy. I
Right.
think that he had mental issues because of that, but it took me a lot of years to work that out.
Yeah. Well, that's the silent generation where you never spoke about what happened. You never shared your
I
problems.
don't know anything about my father's life other than he was born in Germany. He was
Yeah.
in the
Right.
Boys Brigade, and we went to visit his family, but I couldn't understand a word they said anyway.
Wow.
And that's all I know
Are you
about
interested
him.
to follow anything up, or you just
No,
want to?
I
Right.
just want to just give that part of my life up.
Just
It's not worth going back to.
Yeah, look, it's the hardest thing is when you first start speaking about it, it brings up a lot of stuff and then it gets more comfortable as you start speaking about it. But there's still a lot of questions like, well, why did you let it go on for so long? Or like there's still those
What
questions. And
choice? What choice did I have? He was my father. What do? You can't
that's
just
right.
get up and walk out.
You don't know though. As in, as in, we don't think of those options. I mean, we
Well, you
might,
don't. You're a child.
but you, where else were you going to go? He's the protector, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, do I go to my grandmother, who was quite a strict person anyway? Um, so, would she have believed my story? And she lived like 2,000 miles away from us. So,
But that's a risk.
how was I going to get there?
And it's a risk to tell other people too, right?
Because you
Yeah.
might not be believed.
Yeah. Or they might go and tell him and then
Hmm.
you get another beating. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
That's how it works.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. But I reckon we don't know it then because we're not able to regulate our emotions yet really. And the fear gets triggered and I mean, we're afraid of I remember just being afraid of my fear because it scared me so much how it just took me over and I just felt like I was completely helpless, powerless, vulnerable. There was a whole secrecy, the betrayal, and that fear was so terrifying to me. I didn't want to feel the fear. That's what I was avoiding,
Mm.
let alone everything else, but it was the fear that I didn't want
The fear
to.
of being afraid. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
difficult.
yeah,
It's hard. It is
yeah.
hard.
It's crippling. And if no one's ever felt it, it's like literally I used to liken it to it's just those movies where they show people being in hell. That's what it's like. That's what it feels like. You
Yeah. Well, my
can't.
advice to anyone who's been through rape, incest, sexual abuse, being groomed at school, whatever,
Yeah.
interview your psychologist or your psychiatrist. Don't let them interview you. You interview them. You see if they're a good fit for you.
Mm-hmm.
Don't go to the first person that you see and just hope for the best. Interview them and find
Yeah.
out what their background is, because honestly, as I said before, some people are just out of college, out of university. They haven't got a bloody clue.
Yeah.
They
And
haven't
some
even lived life.
no, and some psychologists actually, because this happened to me, will tell you that your feelings are not appropriate and you need to let them go and you can't because this is right where you are and you need to address right where you are, which is
Absolutely.
what they know to do. But however, because you might have some pretty like cutting yourself or suicidal thoughts, that's an alarm bell for them and they want you to not think those things, so they try to talk you out of them with cognitive behavior and mindset. However,
It's bullshit. Trust me, it's bullshit.
it is. And do you know what? I said to the psychologist at the time, suicide is actually in my tool belt. If
Hmm.
if you take it away from me, then I'm completely powerless. At least with suicide, I have some power in the world. If it really gets too much for me, and I'm not giving up, I am not giving up, but I need to know I've got the red pill if
Hmm.
I need the red pill, or else I'm fucked. Or else I feel like
Absolutely.
I've
Yeah.
got no backup. That's my only backup. And she goes, oh, I guess it makes sense. You see, and that's not what we need. We need I get it. I get it. I will not
Yep.
put you in, because she wanted to get on the phone and put me in the psych ward. And I said, that's not where I belong. And you know that. I'm not
Yeah,
going to
I
kill
know.
myself. Yeah.
So I encourage people to interview your therapist. Don't
There
let
you
them
go.
interview you.
Yeah, that's right. Have you dealt with someone in my situation before? What are the
Yes.
sort of things that you're going to tell me if I tell you whatever? Yeah, absolutely. Great. So, Rose, we will finish soon because we've gone for a while, but tell me what you're grateful for out of all of this. The kind of person and characteristics that you possess.
Mm. I'm grateful for my sense of humor.
Yep.
I'm grateful for friends that I've met along the way that like you. I'm grateful for people like you who allow me to tell my story, to bring me out of my shell.
Yep.
I am grateful for my family, obviously, and my friends that I do have here,
Mm-hmm.
and my husband. I'm grateful for being alive. I am very grateful to be alive because I get to smell the roses every single day. I get to see the sky, I get to smell the air, I get to see the
Mm-hmm.
bees and the birds. I'm just grateful for life.
Don't you reckon that gratitude? I mean, I don't know. I just feel incredibly grateful for every little detail. And I
Mm,
know that's because of my experience.
mm,
And I don't know how profound it would be. I think I'd have to cultivate that level of gratitude otherwise.
mm. Yeah,
Don't
I
you
think if
reckon?
you've been through some sorts of trauma, I think you are more grateful for the little things because it's the little things that you probably missed out on as growing up or
Yeah. Yeah. Like when you said the breeze, that's one of mine. A breeze will come across and I'll be like, oh, I feel so free. I am free.
Mm,
It's not a care in the world, you know?
mm. Yeah,
And
absolutely.
what are the sort of beliefs that you now have that are really steadfast, that really like do you, that are resourceful for you and do you good service in your life?
Mm.
Mm.
I don't know. That's a hard question. I think I just work hard. I just stay focused on being well, being
Mm.
present, trying not to dwell on the past because the past doesn't serve you if you keep
Well,
dwelling on
there's
it
one.
because
And you opened with things happen for a reason, which is a
they do.
bloody, it's such a good belief to have. Yeah.
They do.
Yeah.
Everything happens for a reason. It doesn't happen to you, it happens for you.
Yeah. It's a great belief. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Oh, no, I really can't think of anything off the top of my head. I think
Yeah.
I just want to say to anyone who's out there who's been through any sort of traumatic experience that please go and talk to someone, your friend, your family. I don't care, stranger. Sometimes talking to a stranger is a lot easier than talking to somebody that's close to you.
Yeah.
Um,
Absolutely.
tell your story, get it off your chest because the
Mm.
more times you tell it, the easier it is and the easier it is to let go of.
Yeah, tell someone and then start telling everyone is a saying that I used to have. But
And don't brush sexual assault under the carpet. Don't brush
no,
incest under the carpet. Incest is one
no,
of the most insidious sexual abuse situations that is not talked about enough.
no, it's not talked about enough. And it's not about whether it's rape or they just touched you, like even if it was a brush, but it's intentional. It's if it's not right by you, it's not right.
It's exactly
That's one of my beliefs that's really served me well. That allowed me to really move from that situation, which is, well, because someone actually said to me, is rape really that bad? Which I mean, and they
beg your
really,
pardon?
yes, correct. Family member.
Beg your pardon. Really? My God, they want to be hogtied and beaten.
But he genuinely, and I respect him asking, surprisingly. I know this person well. I know where that's coming from. A little kind of like Abraham Hicks, or a little kind of like, yeah, but is it really that bad? Can't you just leave it in the past? It's a story. And it's like, it's not that easy because, you know, our neural pathways are forming and we're conditioned, and, you know, survival mechanism just doesn't
Happened
want
to
to let
you.
go
It
of
happened.
stuff.
Something hurtful happened. You know, it's not. It's
But
not
he
like
doesn't
you cut
know.
your finger and put a Band-Aid on it. Someone's
No.
actually hurt you.
Yeah.
Someone's physically hurt you
But
and
not only,
did
yeah.
something to you that's out of your control. You can't just forget about it.
Well, I can, I'm okay with what happened, but I know that my survival mechanism does not want to let that go. So that's the thing. Is it, my survival mechanism wants to always keep me safe. It wants to keep us all safe. And it's not a thing that you just can let go of. It's just not a thing you can let go of, because then you are at the risk of it happening again. And it was so terrifying the first time or whatever. Look, speak about it if it's uncomfortable in the beginning, and just be with that discomfort. And it's incredible when you do, isn't it, Rose? When you start talking about it, it frees you from that shame and the guilt and feeling like there's something wrong with you and all of that. I mean, there's really great power in it. I want these conversations out there more. I would like to just be able to listen in on a conversation and hear someone going, oh, yeah, you know, I was raped. Or, you know, I don't want it to be a taboo topic anymore, because we
But I
can.
don't want it to be a flippant topic either, because it
Oh,
is
not
a
a
very.
no, not a flippant topic, but people can have conversations about all sorts of things, but not this.
Mm.
And when it's needed to be spoken, it's important. And the reason being is because there's a lot of parents who have children who aren't even aware of the signs. They don't even know what grooming looks like. However, I know that there are a lot of videos now where people are doing trainings for parents so they understand what grooming looks like. But here's the thing, and I know this because I've watched those videos, it doesn't cover everything because every situation is unique. So as parents or aunties or uncles, you know what? I know it doesn't feel really right, but just take a look at the people who are around the kids that you know and just do a little explore, like just explore it for a moment. Watch how they're touching them. Watch how close they get, the proximity. Watch the kind of things that they say. Get a sense for that person. And then you can leave it, but still have it sort of in the back of your mind to be aware of how people are
Yeah,
relating
you
to
can
them.
tell children who are being groomed or abused by the distance they keep from their friends or from adults.
If they keep distance and they do this, not every child, but they do a stare off. They just disappear. I can't say who, but someone who I know really well. She was getting beaten at home by a stepdad and her mum. And I knew her from a baby. And so I noticed all of a sudden, just didn't want to hug, wasn't loving like she used to be. And her eyes would go into big black discs. She was over adrenalized, big black disc, and she was gone. And I could not, I'd be like this, and I'd go, hey, come back, come back, come back. And then she was getting aggressive and bitchy with me and rolling her eyes at me. These are signs, aren't they?
Yeah,
Those
very much signs, yes, that something's
sudden
not
change.
right at home.
Yep. And she wouldn't tell me. She acted like everything was okay, because you see, the thing about children too, which is you want to be a good girl or a good boy, and you don't want to talk against your parents because you love them, don't we? Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, oh, Rose, thank you. We can do this again soon, yeah?
Oh, I loved it. Thank you. It's thank you for letting me tell my
Yeah.
story and to share with your tribe.
Thank you. And when all the feedbacks, because I haven't got any feedback now, but when it does come in, and it usually does, and more people will watch it, you can either see it on my page, or I'll literally will send it to you when the feedback comes in.
Perfect. Love to
Yeah.
see. I'd love to see the replay.
I'm so
Thank you,
pleased that we
Fer. I
met
appreciate you.
and connected. We'll
Thank
talk
you.
again. Let's talk again,
We shall.
darling. Have a
Bye-bye.
good evening. See you
You
later.
too.
Bye, honey. All right. Now, oh, hi. Who have we just got here? I'm going to wave at you. Maria, Herrick. Hi, Maria. So the conversation's just finished. We've just finished. We actually spoke for an hour. Normally these 7 p.m. lives go for 30 to 40 minutes. However, some topics are quite involved, and today we went for an hour. And then it's going to go onto the She Talks page on Facebook, the private group for the empowered speakers, and here on Instagram for She Talks. So it's all going to go into broadcast there, as well as on YouTube, where I've got all my She Talks videos. I just want to thank Rose again for coming and being so generous with her story and allowing me to ask some tough questions, which she did fantastic with. And that is the nature of when people have, transformed their trauma, which is amazing. These are conversations that are really, really, really important for us to have. And I know they're uncomfortable. And I know that it brings up a lot of questions, and it might even trigger you with your stuff. However, if you're able to have these conversations and listen to these conversations, stick around, there'll be more. It's a topic, clearly one that I will continue to speak about and bring to the fore of people's minds. Being a child of 10 when I was being groomed and then sexually assaulted, sexually abused, and I have a history of rape and gang rape and those psychological effects, and the symptoms that I was left with and the fear that it leaves you with is profound. And seriously, you're at a crossroads and you have two choices. You can either let it take you down, or you just got to hang on, white knuckle, and do the work and rise above it, get beyond it. So I'll be honest, now that I'm here in this part of my life, I would never give back the gifts and the depth of quality and the character that I have and the identity that I have for myself. I would never give that back. I don't want to give it back. So therefore, if that means leaving those experiences in my past, I'm okay to do that. And I hope that you can get to that place too, if that is a similar story to yours, if you're still working through trauma, any trauma. Doesn't have to be sexual abuse. It can be, domestic violence and other traumas, because we are left with post-traumatic stress. It does affect our neurochemistry in a really profound way and our survival mechanism. And I'm here to tell you that you definitely can trust again, 100%. Now, does that mean you trust everyone? Hell no. You get a real sense of people when they've got aggressive energy. You've got a real sense of people when they've got a sexual energy, and then you've got to do the work or ask them questions and dig deeper and find out where that's coming from. We can love fully again. Now, it's truly possible. And I even know of one woman who was an incest survivor, and her first sexual experience was as a baby, and she has memories of those being put up on this is a trigger warning, by the way, put up on a washing machine because it was the right height for the grown man to penetrate this baby, and it damaged her. You can imagine those two things don't fit, so it tore her skin around her vulva, and she's able to love fully, able to trust fully. However, there are boundaries, and there are people who don't get inside of her circle to allow her to feel safe. And it's pretty much like that with me. There are certain people where I'm like, no, not. I've got a pretty wide net of people that I let in, but however, there is some energies, some people you just know that you're at risk with and around. So keep all of this in mind. Open your heart, lean in where it's safe to open your heart and lean in. We need it. Our self-expression is fundamental to living a life that you can thoroughly enjoy. It's really important. So that's why I have She Talks, because I understand how important it is for women, and I'm just working with women and men. It's important for men and women. I understand how important it is for us to be fully self-expressed. And fully self-expressed is where you free to move your body without feeling like someone can come and take something from you, that you don't feel vulnerable, that you're not scared of your own openness and vulnerability, where you can freely express what you want to say, and then you still make those considered decisions about, this is not the place to talk about this because I don't need to leave people with this and go home and think about it, you know, but you are still free to say whatever you want to say whenever you choose to say it, and you can decide where those places are. Fully self-expressed, authentically, fully, confidently self-expressed. Every human being deserves that. It is the right of every human being. However, never when it interferes with the will of someone else, with the free will of someone else, the rights of someone else. So we have conversations and we say to people, is it okay if I share my story with you? When you start speaking, you need to say to people, if this is you and you need to start telling your story, you want to tell it more, please ask them, hey, my story has a lot of trigger warnings in it, or my story's about sexual abuse. May I share it with you? And they'll tell you. And hi, Ramis, hi, how you doing? So I'm just wrapping our conversation tonight with Rose Davidson, I should say, Rose Davidson, from Talking with the Expert. She has a podcast. However, Rose is also a survivor of incest and came on tonight and spoke very candidly with us, which was amazing. So go back and have a listen. And please, please, please leave comments. I want to be able to give Rose the comments after tonight's conversation with her. So please leave comments for Rose. Look, if you need to speak about it, please ask other people, is it okay? And then find that one person that you can speak to, and then keep going. Just keep sharing your story, and it gets easier, and the shame will leave you, and all of the other stuff that comes along with that, so that you no longer feel powerless, so that you no longer feel vulnerable, so that you feel supported, so that you feel heard, so that you feel fully self-expressed. It's so important. I respect and honor you. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. I love these 7 p.m. Saturday lives, and I'll see you next Saturday. I'm not sure who's coming on. It could just be me, or it could be you if you want to, you know, send me a message and tell me what you'd like to talk about. It is a conversation. It goes both ways. So that way, all the gems come up to the surface, you know. All right, beautiful, absolutely beautiful humans. See you later. All the best. Talk to you soon. Hey, bye for now. Leave a comment. Remember, bye for now. Oh, just leaning over. I want to close this one off. Thanks, guys. See you later. Bye. Bye.